continuing my April book haul. Not gonna lie, I went a little bonkers this month and bought a crap ton of books. So because of that, I'm gonna cut this intro short and just get started. So let's dive in. So the first 4 books I'm about to show off is super exciting because I'm actually gonna be giving them away to one of you guys. That's right, I'm partnering with Books Amino again to do another really amazing giveaway. And if you're not familiar, the Books and Writing Amino is so awesome. It's basically like an online bookish community in your pocket. It's full of all sorts of discussions. You can do posts, you can do reviews, you could do a live chat, you could do polls, you could do basically anything you want. And there's also hundreds of subcategories that roll up into the Books and Writing Aminos. For example, one of my faves, which we've talked about a lot, is the Harry Potter Amino, but there's also some really awesome ones like the Poet Warriors Amino, which is full of really great poetry. It's like a poetry community. And I like to go on there to kind of like see the poetry because I find it really nice. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of this app. If you don't know about it, now you know. But let's go into the books that one of you could possibly win as a giveaway. First book in the giveaway, so pumped for. It is The Queens of Fenne by Kendall Blake. This is the short story collection that, yeah, goes with the 3 Dark Crown series. As you guys know, it's like one of my favorite YA fantasy book series of all time. The 3rd book comes out later this year, and so I of course had to pick up the little collection of short stories. I also love how it's very aesthetically going with the rest of the series, and I am obsessed, and I feel like a lot of you guys are really excited about this as well, so I had to pick it. Next up is one of my most anticipated books, and that is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. This book has been just getting so much buzz, and I'm so pumped that it's finally out. Dread Nation follows our main character Jane, who was born 2 days before the dead began to rise, which completely derailed the American Civil War as we know it, and has basically altered history. And when the dead rose, a certain law was passed which requires certain children to attend combat schools to basically learn the skills to prevent the dead from like overrunning the living. There she's trained in both weaponry and etiquette, and she's training to become an attendant, which gives her a chance of a better life. However, when a group of individuals in the South begin this political movement to return their area to the glory days of before the war and before the dead began to rise, Jane is in a situation where she doesn't want that to happen. And when families around her hometown begin to go missing, Jane is kind of thrown into this mystery and the politics that are beginning to rise up in this time. This is said to be provocative, terrifying, and darkly subversive. Dread Nation is Justina Ireland's stunning vision of America, both foreign and familiar. This just sounds incredibly heart-wrenching, incredibly political and timely, and a novel that just seems like it has so much to say, and I can't wait to read it for myself. The next book is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Kristoff, and this just sounds like the delicious dark YA fantasy book that I always need in my life. This follows our main character Lyra, who is a siren of the sea who's basically feared by all, and she has the souls of 17 princes that she has collected throughout her life. However, a twist of fate kind of puts her in a position she never thought she'd be. Her mother, the queen, is basically forced to transform one of her daughters into the thing that they all loathe most, a human. Now, Lyra has until the winter solstice to return another heart to her mother, otherwise she will stay a human forever. This just sounds like a very dark, lyrical type of fantasy book I'm always loved to read. I have not read many like sea, ocean-centered magical story, so this definitely appeals to me because of that, and I just hear it's so dark and so enchanting. Very last book you could win in the giveaway is Olivia Twist by Laurie Langdon. This is a retelling of Oliver Twist, and I love a good retelling of classic tales, especially given a YA twist. I always think they're a lot of fun and cute, and I'm always a big fan. Follows our main character Olivia, who was born in a workhouse amongst boys, and she is no stranger to thieving, stealing to make sure she is safe in life. However, once she's taken in by her uncle, her life is kind of thrown into a whole new realm of fancy dinner parties and like manners, something she's never really experienced before. And we also follow our main character Jack, who is also very much involved in underworld thievery and politics, and as he's planning his next greatest heist, he runs into Olivia, and their lives and fates become very much intertwined. This just sounds like a very, very fun historical reimagining of Oliver Twist, full of thieves and, you know, plans and heists, and I am excited to read it. It just sounds really, really cute, and I cannot wait. Those are the 4 books I am giving away in this giveaway. I'm actually hosting this giveaway on my Instagram, so be sure to follow me on that channel if you're not already to get all the details, because I am posting it very, very soon, and good luck to all of you. The next book I'm going to show off is the Prewstopia Book Club Pick of the Month for the month of April. This month, Sasha and I picked Emergency Contact, which is a book I feel like is getting a lot of hype on BookTube, so we were very much interested to pick it up ourselves. This is an Own Voices contemporary novel, and I'm about halfway through it at the start of this video, and I am enjoying it. The contemporary story actually set in Austin, Texas, and one of our main characters goes to the university that I went to, which is quite an experience to read in a book. It like really throws me off, actually, I'm not gonna lie, because it's like, oh, I've been there, or oh, I wonder where that is. Like, I don't know. It's definitely interesting to say the least. But this is a story about 2 people who live very, very different lives, and they have a very awkward initial encounter, which they both would like to forget, but they do exchange numbers, and they kind of begin this texting relationship with one another. They're both going through a lot of different things emotionally in their lives, and they kind of begin to rely on each other through this texting relationship to get advice, to get like just someone to get an opinion from and rely on, and that's kind of what this story is centered on. This story is cute, but it definitely has a bittersweet element to it. There is drama and there's angst in it as well. Again, I am enjoying it, and I'm excited to talk about more of my thoughts at the end of the month. Next up is Wild Magic by Tamara Pierce. I picked this up right after I finished Tempest and Slaughter by Tamara Pierce last month. This is the series that she wrote first. Basically, Tempest and Slaughter is a prequel series to this series, and I read that one first. I will say, I don't think it matters which order you read them in. This follows our main character Diane, who has wild magic, which allows her to speak to animals. In this series, we basically follow her as she grows up and grows into her magic and learns to use this type of magic. She basically can communicate with animals, kind of become animals, and it's just kind of a unique style of magic that I haven't read in a while. I really like Tamara Pierce's writing. I find it to be very like nostalgic, I think, as I always read her books growing up, and I'm just loving this series, and I'm excited to read more books in this as well. Next up, we have a random book I picked up in the San Francisco airport, and that is The Quick by Lauren Owen. This is a gothic 18th century, 19th century London set vampire novel of all things. It basically sold to me. Kate Atkinson said this is a feast of gothic storytelling that is impossible to resist, and it's a refreshing vampire novel. So because of those things, I picked it up. I read 80 pages on the plane, can say that I am enjoying it so far. It's apparently like a vampire gothic mystery, and all those things very much appealed to me, so I decided to grab it in the San Francisco airport. Next, I have an arc of a book I'm super excited to read. I was actually lucky enough to host the pre-pub event for this, which was a lot of fun, but I have Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. Marisha Pessl is one of my all-time favorite authors. If you guys remember, I've read Night Film by her and absolutely love that book. And this is her YA debut that comes out in June, and it sounds awesome, so I'm so pumped I got my hands on an arc. This is another dark thriller mystery novel, and this follows 6 best friends who are beautiful and incredibly close. However, the death of one of the 6 kind of changes their lives forever. After the death of one of their closest friends, the rest of the 5 begin to slowly drift apart. 1 year later, they kind of reunite at this estate to kind of relive some of the past. And something feels off, and then a mysterious knock of a man at their door kind of throws everything in disarray. This man announces the impossible. Basically, the time that they exist has been stuck. They are now living in something called a Neverworld Wake. And the only way to get out of this Neverworld Wake is for all of these people to decide the one person that can escape. Yeah, this book sounds incredibly intense. Cannot wait to pick it up. Honestly, if it's like any of Marisha's other books, it's gonna be dark, it's gonna be suspenseful. Cannot wait. Next book I picked up is Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the 3rd and final book to the Illuminae Files. This is one of my all-time favorite science fiction stories. It is told in an unusual format, and it is just full of space adventure and suspense and great characters and all things I love in sci-fi. I've already read this book. I really thought it was a great concluding novel. If you've not picked up the Illuminae Files, I couldn't recommend it more. Yeah, when this came out, this was like an auto buy. Next book I have is Pacheco by Minjin Lee. This is a National Book Award finalist and a book I've been meaning to pick up for a while. And this is a family saga, which is always one of my favorite stories to read. It basically follows 4 generations of a poor, proud immigrant family as they fight to control their destinies, exiled from their homeland. I've heard incredible things about this story. It's one of people's top books of last year. So I just finally caved and picked up this beautiful paperback edition, and hopefully we'll get to it soon. Next up is a book that Clay actually picked out for himself, but I figured I would haul it because I'm sure I will read it as well. And that is The Serpent of Venice by Christopher Moore. This just caught Clay's eye at the bookstore and he grabbed it. And I honestly really like Christopher Moore's writing. It tends to be rather comedic. And basically reading the description of this book sounds like a whole lot of fun. It basically says Venice, a really long time ago, 3 prominent Venetians await their most loathsome dinner guests to arrive. This dinner is not a normal dinner. Of course, the wine is drugged and they're basically looking to see their plans set in motion. Again, this just sounds like a very interesting, comical, and yet dark book, which I'm always a fan of, and I'm really glad Clay picked it out. Next up is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. I picked this up because the TV show is out and everyone seems to be talking about it. It's a very, very short book, but the cover really caught my eye at the bookstore. Clay and I went to an independent bookstore a couple weeks ago, had a little peruse, and we both came away with some books. This is the one I picked out. And honestly, I don't really want to know what this book is about because I feel like it's one of those suspenseful, mind-blowing books, so the less I know, the better, but I'm pretty sure this is like a sci-fi thriller, apocalyptic style novel, and again, I've heard very good things about this. Next book I have is The Oracle Year by Charles Soli. This book also sounded really, really intriguing. This is centered around the idea of knowledge is power, and this follows our main character Will, who basically wakes up from a nap with all 108 predictions of the future, which essentially makes him overnight one of the most powerful men in the world. After this, he basically creates his own website, gives himself a second name, The Oracle, basically share these premonitions with the world. This book sounds a little quirky, a little weird, but 100% up my street, and I'm excited to see how this story unravels. I also picked up Cersei by Madeline Miller, who is a very famous author known for her other novel, Achilles, and this is her newest release, which has been getting a lot of buzz. This novel this time is reimagining the character Cersei, the very formidable sorceress from the Odyssey. I'm really interested in reading this book. I've read both the Odyssey and the other one that is escaping my brain by Homer in college. So I always love to see a reimagining of these very famous ancient tales, and I've been meaning to read Achilles for forever. But I'm excited to have Cersei now in my hands as well by her. Next up is a hefty novel, and that is Words of Radiance by Sanderson. I also picked this up whilst book shopping with Clay the other day. I don't know, I saw it in this glorious paperback edition and I could not say no. And with my plans to hopefully read The Way of Kings soon, I thought it would only make sense to have the sequel on hand. Seemed only practical, and I just love these floppy giant paperbacks. Like, I just wish every book came out in these giant floppy paperbacks. There's nothing more satisfying, honestly. Honestly, it's how I feel. And the last 4 books I have to show off are all from Book Outlet. As you guys know, I have a Book Outlet page, which I'll leave linked down below. But the first book I picked up was God's Grave by Kristoff. This is a signed first edition. I've been meaning to pick up this series for a while. They did not have the first one on the site, but they did have the second one. I would imagine the first one will come on there soon, so when it does, I will also pick it up. But this is a very, very dark story by Kristoff following an assassin who I believe is just like recounting her tale throughout this story, and this is like her journal, and there's like footnotes throughout this as well. I hear it's very dark, violent, deadly, and interesting, and I love all of those things when it comes to fantasy, so I grabbed this. And the last 3 books I picked up was the rest of the Immortals Quartet by Tamara Pierce. I read Wild Magic last month, really enjoyed it, so I immediately picked up the last 3 because they were all super affordable on Book Outlet. I'm currently in the midst of the second book of this now, and I'm really enjoying it, so I'm glad I picked them up. It was so great. They had all of the matching covers on there for literally like $2.99, so I grabbed them. Guys, that is my April book haul. Comment down below some books you've gotten recently, as I would love to know, and I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye.